Is eating British meat, particularly British beef, sustainable? Keep on watching to find out. Hello, welcome back to the Stay Fitness channel. If you're new to this channel, my name is Daniela. I'm a fitness, nutrition and life coach specialized in obesity and diabetes management. So today's video we're going to be looking at research and discussing why, in my opinion, a high-fat, low-carb diet could be better for the environment, and we're going to look at some data, so stay tuned until the end because I'm going to throw you a curveball, something that you probably don't expect, so keep on watching till the end. So, as a former vegan, eating meat has always been a bit of a conflicting thought. Even when I realized that to be healthy I had to eat meat, it was always like, but it's bad for the environment, so I didn't eat beef for a really long time. I prefer chicken and like venison. I didn't even eat pork because I really believe that to reduce my carbon footprint, CO2 emission, all that, I had to limit how much meat I was eating Meatless Monday, plant-based alternatives and all that. So recently I've done a ton of research looking at green gas house emission greenhouse gas emissions, and to look at the actual truth and like if meat is really that bad for the environment, what's the impact. So when we look at greenhouse gas emissions, there's no really point looking like the world or like multiple countries. We need to look at the country we live at or the country we buy products from. So when it comes to eating British meat, we need to look at British gas emissions. Looking at global, or like, it's like you can't compare a country like far away with us. Like we're just a different country. If I say the average kids gets this much food, it doesn't take away the fact that some kids might be eating a lot more food and some kids might be eating a lot less. So we need to look at the problems in its own country, and we can't look at averages or any like accumulated data. So I really went deep and digged on greenhouse gas emission in the United Kingdom, because that's where I live, that's where I buy meat from. So why would I look at US? Like, if I'm gonna buy the meat from the US, I will do that. Okay, let's get over with the chit chat. I'm here with my computer, and of course I'm gonna show you on the screen what I'm looking at. So first of all, let's look at global gas emissions for the United Kingdom. So this is a report, the report I'm reading. It's a report from the Department of Business and Energy and Industrial Strategy. So these are official reports, as I say, from the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. So here, straight away, we see how UK territorial greenhouse gas emission from 1990 to 2019. We can see that actually dropped, which is good news. But let's look at what are the main contributor to emissions in the United Kingdom. So cool. So emissions by sector. As we can see, the biggest contributor to emissions is transport, followed by energy supply, followed by businesses, residential, and then we get to agriculture. So transport is the main source of emission from the sector, is the use of petrol and diesel in road transport. Road transport is the most significant source of emission in the sector. If you look here, motor vehicle traffic Great Britain from 1990 to 2019. So the dark blue are cars and taxis, followed by light commercial vehicles, followed by heavy good vehicle and other vehicles. So as we can see, cars and taxis are the main contributor to the transport emissions. So energy supply, which is if we go back, energy supply is the next one down to the biggest contributor to gas emissions. Energy supply is estimated to have been responsible for 21% of UK green gas emissions in 2019. Businesses being responsible for like 18%, and then 15% is residential, and then we get to agriculture. So agriculture is responsible for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions in the UK in 2019. So here you see the gas emission from agriculture from 1990 to 2019. So now that we know that agriculture, which is not just meat, we're talking about vegetables as well, is responsible for 10% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the United Kingdom. So now let's look at the report, which is from the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. So this is the agricultural statistic and climate change. So again, as we can see, the total emissions, GHG emissions in the UK for agriculture is 10%, and the total emissions for UK agriculture for carbon dioxide are 1%. And what we can learn looking at this report is that actually our productivity has gone up, so we became more efficient producing meat and dairy with less cows, which is really good. So from these two first reports, we've learned that actually agriculture is only responsible for 10% of greenhouse emissions, and we looked at the agriculture report, and we found out that actually the emissions from agriculture have dropped, which is really good. We became more productive with our production, and now we're going to look at another report from the National Farmers Union, at looking at how farmers are really committed to reduce their carbon footprint, their greenhouse gases emissions. So let's look at it. So this is the report, as I said, from the NFU and climate friendly farming. So as you can see here, around 65% of farmland in the UK is best suited for growing grass rather than other crops. If we did not graze livestock on it, it would not be used to produce food. Grazing livestock on these lands allows us to turn inedible grass into high quality, nutrient-rich beef and lamb. So 65% of UK farmland is not suited to grow crops. British beef and lamb is among the most efficient and sustainable in the world due to our extensive grass-fed system. Emissions from beef production in the UK are about half the global average, according to the Government Committee on Climate Change. So 80% of the UK beef is produced using predominantly forage-based diets, with only a very small amount of soy in rearing diets. This means UK beef production is not a driver of deforestation in other parts of the world. Livestock plays an important role in maintaining and enhancing the soil used to grow crops too. The introduction of grass and clover lays and livestock into arable crops rotations is beneficial to soil health and fertility, with manure from grazing livestock helping to boost soil and organic matter. In the UK, 81% of total greenhouse gas emissions are carbon dioxide, 11% are methane, and 4% are nitrous oxide. Hope I pronounced that well. For UK agriculture, 12% of its emissions are CO2, 56% are methane, and 31% is nitrous oxide. So methane emissions from UK agriculture accounts for only 5.5% of the country's total GHG emissions. The production of GHGs is a significant issue for the livestock sector, and livestock farmers in this country are striving to reduce these emissions. Emissions from the UK livestock are estimated to be around 5% of the country's total GHG emissions, significantly lower than the estimated EU-wide figure for livestock, around 9.1% of all emissions. This is part due to the UK's efficient production system. Actively managed pastures that are grazed by livestock are good carbon sink, capturing CO2 in the vegetation and strong carbon in soil which could otherwise be released into the atmosphere. Reducing greenhouse greenhouse gas emissions and improving efficiency go hand in hand. Steady improvements in production efficiency have taken place over recent years, with 5% fewer prime cattle and lambs required to produce each ton of meat from 2010 in 2010 and in 1998. The UK offers some of the best farm animal welfare standards in the world. So from these 3 reports, we can now for sure looking at data, not looking at anyone's opinion, anyone's beliefs or anything like that, beef is definitely not responsible for greenhouse gas emissions in the UK. British beef and lamb and other animals are grown to excellent standards. They actually contribute to sinking carbon into the soil, which is one of the most powerful tools we have to combat greenhouse gas emissions, even more powerful than trees. When you sink carbon into the soil, it goes so deep, and then it can stay there, and it gets processed by, I think, bacteria or something like that in the soil. So eating British beef is definitely not the problem with the greenhouse emissions, and as you can see, it's transport. But as I say, I was gonna throw you a curveball. So now we're going to look at a very interesting report. So the report I'm showing you right now is from WRAP, which is a charitable organization which helps businesses and governments to be more sustainable and have a lesser impact on the environment. So we're gonna look at the food waste in the United Kingdom. So WRAP estimated annual food waste arising within the UK household, hospitality and food services, food manufacture, retail, household and wholesale sector in 2010 and around 9.5 million tons, 70% of which was intended to be consumed by people, 30% being inedible parts, has a value of 19 billion pounds a year, and is associated with more than 25 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. By way, household food waste makes up 70% of the UK post-farm grade total manufacturing, 16% is hospitality, 12% retail, and so on. So the graph here, we can see that 70% of food waste is from households. Which foods you think we waste the most? So portion of wasted food and drink by food group: fresh vegetables and salads 28%, drinks 15%, bakery 11%, meals 9%, dairy and eggs 9%, fresh fruit 6%, meat and fish 6%. So we only waste from the whole food, all the foods that we waste, only 6% is from meat and fish. And let's weigh the top 10 most wasted food and drink items in UK homes. Potatoes, bread, milk, meals home, drink, fizzy drinks, fruit juice, pork, ham and bacon, poultry, carrots, potato, processed. A fact, every day in the UK is home we throw away approximately 20 million whole slices of bread, 4.4 million whole potatoes, 920,000 whole bananas, 1.2 million whole tomatoes, 720,000 whole oranges, 800,000 whole apples, 2.7 million carrots, blah, and so on and on and on. So, what have you learned? As already said, beef is not the main contributor to greenhouse gases emission. We waste a ton of vegetable and potatoes. In the UK, we actually don't grow that many vegetables. If you look at the report, in the UK we mainly grow like barley and wheat and rapeseed, I think. And as we learn, the way the UK is very suitable for farming animals, but it's not very well suited for growing vegetables. So actually the vegetables we eat are mostly from other countries, which then goes to contribute to the main greenhouse gas emission contributor, which is transport, and we waste a ton of it. And we also waste a ton of bread, pastries, and all that. With a low carb, high fat diet that's put at the center meat, we would massively reduce food waste, and we would also buy food that's locally grown, reducing emissions from transport. And then it might raise the question, but we use a lot of soy to grow farm animals. So as we look at, we actually don't use much soy in the UK, but to prove my point, I actually look at a report on how much soy we use in the UK. So this is the report from the Economics, Climate, Environment and partnership with forests. In this we see how soybean is actually used. So when you see like data like 70% of all soy produced or 80% of all soy produced gets used as animal feed, we can see from this this graph, this illustration, that soy is like a nut, like a seed. Actually, it's a seed. Most of the seed is made of meal. Some is vegetable oil, and then some gets used as a whole bean. Soy vegetable oil is used in all processed foods. So actually, all soy gets used in processed foods that we eat. It's just that the leftover, which is the meal, gets then recycled, actually upcycled from farm animals into good quality, highly nutritious meat. So when you buy any, like I'm talking any, from like if you look at all labels, you'll see on the labels written some sort of soy lecithin, soybean oil, and these are products that are extracted from the soybean, and then the meal gets used from animal feed. So when we see data like 80%, 90% of soy gets produced for animal feed, is actually a little bit of a inaccurate information, because we're missing the part where the soybean oil gets extracted and used for human consumption. Actually, soybean oil is the second most used oil in the world. So in this graph, we can actually see how soy is used for animal feed in the UK. So it's breakdown of how soy is used. 43% of the soy gets used for poultry, 22% for pork, 15% for cheese, 12% for beef, and then eggs and margarine and milk. Very small percentages. So only 12% of the soy that gets into the United Kingdom also used for animal feed is for beef. Majority goes to chicken and pork. Here are the percentages of soy in animal feed, which makes up only about 9%. In this figure you can see how much each animal, how much soy gets used. So as you can see, chicken uses up most of the soy that gets into the UK for animal feed. So from the last report, we learned that eating beef is actually reduces how much soy gets used, basically, because if you gain to your lifestyle a more low fat, low carb, high fat diet that is mostly from whole foods, mostly animal foods, that has no processed foods, and is mostly beef and lamb, we actually see that our impact on soy production will be so low. So if you want to reduce deforestation from soy product, you need to reduce how much soy you eat, consciously or unconsciously. So if we don't eat any processed foods, we reduce the amount of animal that actually eat soy, and we eat predominantly animals that actually are fed very low amounts of soy. I mean, logically, we would see that like we wouldn't need to produce so much soy. And as we learned from the report before, 87% of the beef in the UK gets fed is grass-fed or forage-fed. So the amount of soy beef gets is extremely low. Another few interesting facts that I found. A review of evidence by the Sustainable Food Trust found that 85 liters of milk is produced in the UK for every kilo of soybean milk consumed by dairy cows. No more than 7.5 liters of soy drink are produced from a kilo of whole soya beans. So actually, in the UK, more cow's milk is produced per kilogram of soy than actual soy milk. As a result, the trust says drinking milk from cows in the UK uses 11 times less soy than consuming drinks made directly from soya. Researchers said the environmental impact could be reduced even further if the alternative sources of protein were used for livestock feed, or if consumers choose milk from grass-fed cows. Alternatives include rapeseed meal, distillers' grains, pulse grains, including beans and peas. So, again, eating beef in the UK is extremely good for our environment. It reduces, you contribute into the ecosystems, you contribute into reducing the carbon footprint, carbon sinking in the soil, and you also contribute into the reduction of soy production. I know some of you are gonna say, but I don't have money to be eating meat all the time, meat is expensive. Actually, if you look at so I tried to find a report where it said how much money gets spent on like junk food, and if you will look at how much food we actually waste, eating meat is extremely cost effective, and I found some interesting numbers for you. People from age 25 to 34-year-old are the biggest consumers of takeout, with 49% of young professionals claiming that they rely on takeouts because they don't have time or inclination to cook at home. The habits cost them staggering £2,626.92 per year. This is £218 per month spent on average on takeout. So you don't tell me that eating meat would be more expensive than that, because it's really not. And as we learn, you don't need to buy grass-fed, panda massaged beef. You can buy any quality beef, and there's like an 87% chances that beef has grown outside for most of their lives. Just a certain percentage, a very small percentage gets fed soy and other grains, and usually it's at the end of their lifespan. So when it comes to say, oh, I don't have time to cook, how long does it take to put a steak or a burger in a pan, fry it up with some vegetables? And like, what we need to understand that you don't need to buy tons of vegetables every week thinking, oh, that has to be like the healthiest thing, so I need to buy tons of vegetables. Just buy the vegetables that you actually like to eat and eat them together with your meat. Another really important point I want to make is when you eat a high-fat, low-carb diet, fat has twice as much a calorie as carb, so with 50% less food, you can achieve the same caloric amount that you're achieving now. So if you eat 2,000 calories of carbs, you need twice as much as if you eat fatty meats and other fatty fruits and fatty like animal products. So if everyone adopts a more high-fat, low-carb diet focused on Britishly grown meat, we can actually reduce our carbon emissions, promote systems that are trying to reduce carbon footprint, sink carbon into the soil, and you reduce your emissions from eating foods that come from the other side of the planet. You can eat locally grown meat that is highly nutritious, is like probably close to 100% of all the nutrition elements, nutrition vitamins that you need to thrive are in beef and lamb. Of course, you can eat also some chicken and some pork, but there's no comparison of how much nutrients you get from beef and lamb. So we have to rethink the way we eat, and we have to rethink the way we think of beef, because it's been demonized for far too long. The data is not there to support the claim that cows are the biggest contributor to climate change. I don't know if it's true in other countries, but what we've been researching is not true from the US. The US number is actually very similar to ours, and is absolutely not true in the UK. If you want to see this report, just get in touch. I can share all of this. This is not anything that I made up. These are official reports. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. Please share it. I want as many people as possible to watch this, and let's open a discussion. If you think I've got it wrong at some points, if you have data to prove that what I said is wrong, please leave in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to have a debate, discussion, and yeah, I hope that this video brings you, maybe people who are feeling bad about eating meat, it brings you a bit of peace, and yeah, eat more beef. Thank you for watching. As usual, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.